Hi, everyone. This is Rob Roy, and welcome to the HUBB Financial Crypto Show. Before we get into the world of crypto and what's going on right now, let's talk a little bit about where we are in the equities markets, and it's all eyes on the Fed at this moment. The two-day Fed meeting has started today. We'll get the Fed announcement tomorrow on whether it's going to be 25 or 50 basis points. Also want to talk about the bond auction today, which I think plays into what's going on with the Fed. But taking a look at the market, on the S&P, we're right up here against resistance, and it's all subject to how the market views the release of the Fed announcement. Do they go 25 or 50 basis points? Seems like they're going to go 25, but it's still a bit of a coin toss. And then the commentary, how dovish are they? If they only do 25 basis points, are they dovish about more aggressive rate cuts coming? Do they surprise the market a little bit and go 50 basis points? I think the market would like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Then I wanted to show you, in addition to how the S&P is at resistance, literally could go either direction. I know people don't like that. It's like, you're hedging, you go either way. Well, that's where the markets are. We're right against resistance here, a bit of a triple top against these highs from July. If we break out of that, then I think we're headed towards 590 on the S&P. If the market's disappointed, we start to break lower, we could go down all the way to this 530 area and perhaps even lower on the S&P. But we did have a 20-year bond auction today, so let's take a look at the TLT. And you can see that if I widen this chart out, currently that we're down a little bit from where we opened in prices, but still well above the 10-day moving average. Rick Santelli gave it a D because of the lack of interest. The bid to cover was much lower than normal, coming in just around 2.5. That means there was 2.5 bids for every security being auctioned off. If you're wondering what the bid to cover means, so basically it's just a gauge of the demand factor. Everything is supply and demand, even in bond auctions. And so when we look at the Treasury, this is prices. So the fact that prices have come down, you might have thought with him giving it a D that prices would have continued to come down even more. So basically how it works when you have a bond auction, if it's not heavily subscribed to, interest rates have to go up to attract people because we got to pay all the debt that we have here in the U.S., right? So we have to get these securities auctioned off again today, the 20-year bond. So they got to go. And if there's not a whole lot of demand for them, then interest rates tick up a little bit to create that demand. So people actually subscribe to the bond offering and give the U.S. government its money to go spend. So prices and yields move in inverse proportion. So as the demand wanes, rates tend to go up so that we can create the sale and get the both sides of the auction done. So I'm a little surprised that prices haven't come down a little bit more. I think that could have a little bit of uncertainty into how the equities market is going to feel about what the Fed says tomorrow, what they do and what they say. So just wanted to throw a little bit of bond stuff in there. Really anxious to hear how Brandon thinks the crypto world is going to react to whatever the Fed does tomorrow. So without further ado, let's bring in expert on all things crypto, Mr. Brandon Burton. How you doing today, Brandon?
Doing good, Rob. I can't wait. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I think that's important. We're going to hit that for sure. But I just kind of wanted to catch you up on what's kind of going on over the last week, since it's been a week since we met again. We're recording it Tuesday right now. Yesterday, crypto fail. I kind of want to highlight some of the reasons that crypto fell yesterday and why it's coming back today, because I think that's important to what's going to be leading into the Fed meeting and then further into Q4 later this year. We had Brian Armstrong taking a lot of heat yesterday. People came out and said, hey, you know what? You're doing IOUs to BlackRock for the ETF. What the heck? You're basically giving them paper. They're giving you a handshake deal. You're not actually sending them Bitcoin when they buy Bitcoin. Brian got all flustered, gave this tweet out here. It's like, hey, I don't know what the heck's going on here, but everything's legit. Deloitte audits us all the time. You can trust us, bro. Trust us. So at the end of all that, I mean, you trust a company to do what they say they're going to do. I don't know if I want to trust a company to do what I say they're going to do. But the bigger concern here is Brian Armstrong had to go and create his own layer two. The layer two is called Base, right? And so the reason he created Base the way he did and didn't launch a token for the Base networks. So typically when a layer two is launched, they launch a token like Optimism, they launch Polygon, they launch Arbitrum. He launched Base without its own token. And Base was launched because the SEC wouldn't give any guidance on how they were going to regulate tokens. So it's kind of the SEC's fault. So there's a little bit of concern about the trust us bro comment. Because if we look at this chart here, Base, we can see the amount of daily transactions happening on Base are quite a bit. It actually outdoes the top next 5 layer 2s on Ethereum at 4.2 million daily transactions for that network, which is quite a bit. And then if you go look at the active wallets, you can see that absolutely exploding this last little bit, where Base is taking over with over almost 13 million monthly active users, which is quite a bit. So he's starting to take some real swing into the space of the layer 2s on Ethereum and stuff. So this trust us bro isn't hanging a lot of weight into it, especially now that he's launched his own CBBTC, which is a wrapped Bitcoin product, which allows him to trade even more paper. So it's basically a way for him to trade Bitcoin without actually trading Bitcoin, with his promise that his CBBTC is backed by Bitcoin 100%. So we just have to, I guess, kind of ride those coattails for a little bit here. But that was a little bit of the FUD yesterday in the market and kind of why it dropped amongst a couple of other things. But we're going to have to kind of see how that plays out. But Bitcoin obviously starting to bounce back today with more news of Michael Saylor. This was 2 days ago. He bought $1.1 billion worth of Bitcoin. I don't know if anybody can conceive how much that is, but that's a lot of cash. That's a lot of cash. And so obviously the Bitcoin price responded well a couple of days ago. And then just yesterday, he announced he's going to do another $700 million convertible note offering for MicroStrategy, which means he's going to buy another big chunk of Bitcoin here soon. I don't know if anybody in your audience or any of you guys have listened to Michael Saylor talk, but he really is a Bitcoin maxi to the extreme, almost too extreme. But the fact of the matter is he's buying Bitcoin, and because he's buying Bitcoin, more companies are talking about buying Bitcoin, and more people are taking up his lead and adopting the Bitcoin standard. We just had Cathedral Bitcoin come out and say they're going to adopt the Bitcoin standard. They're going to start trading Bitcoin. We've had El Salvador and now Bhutan, I think that was the name of the country over in South Asia, and now has amassed a new store of $750 million worth of Bitcoin they just announced yesterday. More and more of these companies are going to get on the Bitcoin standard and start adopting Bitcoin and moving that onto their balance sheet because they think that's a more secure asset than the ever melting ice cube of fiat, which obviously I believe it is as well. Now, upcoming, we have the Fed meeting, which you alluded to a little bit earlier, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But we also have the election. The U.S. election's coming up. And if you check out this chart here, that red line is the U.S. elections. Every single time we've had a U.S. election, directly after the election, Bitcoin has gone straight up. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen again, nor do I think the election is 100% the culprit behind this. There are other things and other factors involved in making this happen. Obviously, we're talking about M2 money supply. We have global liquidity reaching all-time highs right now. We had the halving. Every time there's an election year, it happens to be a halving year. So this 4-year cycle is playing into things. And I think we talked about that maybe a little bit last show. But that doesn't change the fact that this is what happens after the election. Now, the election is big this year. We have Mr. Trump obviously supports Bitcoin. Kamala hasn't come out with her stance on Bitcoin, really. So we're still waiting to hear that out. But I think the election could be a pivotal moment here in Q4 to help catapult Bitcoin to what I believe will still be that $80,000 level. Now, we've had a lot of people asking for more. Now, this week, in the more immediate concern, we have the Fed meeting. Obviously, they are way behind the 8 ball on this, in my opinion. I think they should have lowered rates here in July, but they didn't. Mr. Jerome Powell decided he wanted to play his hand and sit on it, I guess, and not lower rates. But the Fed meeting, it looks like tomorrow, if we take a look at this chart here, Polymarket, this is the betting crypto market, aligns really well with most of what the analysts are saying. Last Thursday, there was about a 9% chance that they were going to have a 50 basis point decrease. Now that's gone up substantially over the weekend because some analysts have come out and said it, and JP Morgan came out and said, hey, we're going to have 50 basis points. Even what's her butt? I don't even want to mention her name because I'm so frustrated with her. Elizabeth Warren basically is demanding a 75 basis point decrease. She's out of her mind. I don't think she understands what history has done whenever we've had a 75 basis point decrease. It has absolutely crushed the S&P, crushed the markets, and I think it would actually decimate even crypto, even though it's a risk asset. But I don't know what we're going to see here. What do you think, Rob? What do you think we're going to see here tomorrow from the Fed? Do you think 25? Just your vote. What do you think, 25 or 50? Where are you at?
I think 25. I think there's a great argument for 50, but I don't think it's 25 because I think the Fed would have to view that as they've been too high for too long, which I do think they have. I think you and I are in agreement on that. They've kept rates too high for too long, but they don't want to come out and admit that. And cutting 50 basis points when you're, making a switch kind of says, oh yeah, we made a mistake. And I just feel like it's 25 basis points with the election coming up. And on Elizabeth Warren 75, that would spook the market. They do something like that, then that makes the equities world feel like the Fed knows something that they don't know and things are bad. It would be a tremendous shock. It was just a ridiculous thing to say. But there is an argument for 50 basis points. Certainly, I just don't think the Fed's going to do it. I think they're going to say that we're changing our stance. We're going more. There has been a little commentary on the fact that Jerome Powell he's more concerned. This came out this morning. He's more concerned about reignition of inflation than he is about hurting the economy a little bit more. So I think that just kind of telegraphed the 25 basis points. So I really feel it's going to be 25. I think they're happy with being a little behind the curve. It doesn't bother them and moving a little slower. I do think as things go, the economic data is going to come in worse and they're going to have to get more aggressive on their cuts. But that's my opinion. That's what it is. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. I do think they're behind the curve.
Yeah.
And I think they'll have to accelerate the cuts as we go.
Yeah, I think their pride might get in the way of actually doing the correct thing, which is unfortunate, but it might. Yeah. I mean, we're living in that world, though. They don't care.
Yeah.
Politicians, right?
No, they don't. They don't care. Right. Yeah. No, they don't. They don't care.
Politicians first, really and then they really don't. So we'll kind of watch that. That's going to be a volatile day tomorrow in, I think, the stock market. You know this, right? It's going to be volatile in the stock market. It's also going to be volatile in crypto. So we're not really placing any bets here in crypto. If you look at the chart here, my chart, we can see the comeback that Bitcoin had. This was yesterday. We can see this this is where it dipped yesterday, and then it's starting to shoot back up today. It's doing really well today. And I don't know if that's going to continue into the Fed meeting or not. We'll kind of have to wait and see. But what I'm most concerned about, and kind of what we always look at here in crypto, is we always check two charts to see whether we should be buying the alternative assets, the altcoins. And you'll check these charts out here. And just yesterday, Ethereum reached a beta since 2021. So that would be a 3-year low against Bitcoin. Holy crap, look at this chart. This is the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. Ethereum stacked against Bitcoin. Busted through that 0.04 level it's been holding for so long and just kept going straight below it. Absolutely horrible looking chart when you compare Ethereum to Bitcoin. And then the other chart that I want to see that's interesting, that's been doing good all year actually, is the Sol BTC chart. And so yesterday, actually, this chart started to pull back just a little bit. Now, Solana has been doing typically pretty well against Bitcoin, but since August here, you'll notice this huge dip right here, and then it recovered, which was kind of crazy. We know we had that whole the yen carry trade kind of play out, so it spooked everything and altcoins a lot more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin usually holds up a little bit better, but since that time, it's actually drifted now down to where it actually was when the Japan yen carry trade fell apart completely. So now it's at a low here, basically kind of a local low here, where I think that it could be at kind of a pivot point as well. But Bitcoin right now, what people are saying is with this recent move up, we had this low, and then it kind of created this low. They're saying it's starting to create higher lows. So what we're hoping for right here, obviously, is a little bit of a higher high. It just has to get above this 64,000, 64.5 area. If it creates a higher high, I think we could be right on trend to kind of move past this. The only thing getting in the way of this more than anything else, obviously, is the Fed meeting that we have tomorrow with that decision. What is that going to do? And that could easily catapult things either way. So we're going to be watching this Fed meeting to see what it does, because people.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Keep that chart up. Keep that chart up, Brandon. I want to talk about something. You're the guy that knows all the behind the scenes stuff. I'm just a guy that reads the charts. And when you look at that, that is about as classic of an inverted head and shoulders pattern as you can get, with where you drew the lows on the left shoulder there, and then the lower low on the head, and then the right shoulder. Yeah. And so you measure from where the head is up to the neckline, which is way up where you had the, yep, there you go. Up to that middle pivot is where I would consider, even higher than that. I think it would even take it up to that next level. But so, that is suggestive of a big move to the upside. And you measure the neckline to where the bottom of the head is, and then from the neckline, yep, that's the move to the upside. It doesn't really set up much better than that. So that's about as bullish a chart as you could ask for right there, with that inverted head and shoulders. So, I think that looks pretty bullish as well. There's a big descending triangle there in that Solana to a Bitcoin chart, which could break out either direction. The Ethereum one looks pretty scary, doesn't it? I mean, that one looks a little bit.
The Ethereum one is rough. But you're talking. Would you draw the ascending? Would you draw this all the way from? Where would you draw this from? All the way from up here in August?
Right there. Yeah, right exactly here? Like that, and then there. Yeah. And so
that's what we're talking.
That can break either way. I don't know what your thoughts are on which direction it's likely to go, but that's going to move. That's going to break out one direction or the other. I don't really know about that Ethereum chart. That could get kind of ugly. This one's going to move, but can't tell you which direction you see a triangle like that. But it's kind of interesting that the Bitcoin chart just looks like it's ready to explode.
Well, it's interesting because this is starting to make, you said it's going to make a move here soon. It's always seems to be fortuitous timing with what's happening in the real world. Tomorrow, the biggest Solana conference starts. They call it Breakpoint, right? Where they actually release all their new information, their new things that they're working on. Anything groundbreaking in Solana is going to be announced tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. So it's like we built this thing up on the chart to get ready for a move, either up or down, depending on the news, whatever happens.
Yeah, depending on how the news. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. How the news is taken is that I can't, like I said, it's going to move, but I can't tell you which way. But it's getting ready to do something for sure out of that pattern. So that's wild that conference is going on. That times out really well.
Oh, it's a big deal. People are flying over to it. Like it's a big conference, So there's a lot of stuff happening over there. They're supposed to be talking about Fire Dancer, which is their new improvement to their network. They're supposed to be increasing the transactions per second, amongst other things. So there's kind of a lot going on. So they're expecting big things out of this conference. So we'll see what happens. This is just the regular old Solana chart. So it's just kind of chopping sideways for the past since really March, man, honestly.
Yeah,
I guess kind of maybe trending down as well, and a bigger trend here. But interesting to look that up. So cool.
So do you tend to favor Solana more than Ethereum now? Or
I mean, it's just been. Here's the thing: Ethereum. Everybody's building on Ethereum still. I mean, we talk about the real world assets. Everybody's coming over to Ethereum, and the issue with Ethereum, I mean, the chart looks horrible. I mean, if you pull this Ethereum Bitcoin chart up, you look at this and you're like, oh crap. But at the same time, this happened back in 2021. I don't know if this chart goes back that far, but this happened back in 2021. The same thing, it trended all the way down and just absolutely exploded right after this. And so it's like, the same thing could happen if we get a pump in Bitcoin to the point. And the reason that it's trending down so much is Bitcoin dominance is at an all-time high this cycle, obviously, and because the Ethereum or the Bitcoin ETFs have been pumping like crazy. So you have that kind of weighing against it as well. I don't hate Ethereum. I still am looking at possibly entering. It's just a really bad position right now to be in, sadly. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty ugly right now. But like you said, and you even go back to the old basic stuff of Warren Buffett. You buy when there's blood in the streets, right? And that's a,
Yeah,
that's a pretty ugly looking chart there. So if that plays out, then
yeah,
maybe you can look back at some point and say, ugly as that was, it was a good buying opportunity. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, it's
yeah,
going to be wild to
exactly.
see how everything reacts tomorrow.
I,
Most
yeah, I
anticipated
know.
Fed meeting in quite some time.
Yeah, this is a big one. So we'll kind of talk about this next week and see what happens because I think we're going to see some fireworks tomorrow, hopefully.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I have no doubt. It will be in the equities market, as you mentioned, and I'm sure it will be across all different
Good
securities.
deal.
So, yeah, I look forward to getting together again next week and talking about what happened. We'll certainly have a lot
Yeah,
to talk about. So, be
yeah,
really
no
interesting.
doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Anything else to share? Or we'll wrap it up and get ready for wild day tomorrow.
Well, heck, if you guys want to follow us, go ahead and go over to Digital Investor. We'll put the link in the description here below. Go check us out. We do live education 5 days a week where we go over all stuff crypto in depth. We do hour-long shows and we talk about this stuff and what to do in this digital space that is ever growing and ever evolving. But as far as that goes, I'm just sitting on my hands here waiting for the Fed meeting tomorrow.
Sounds good. I'll be right there with you. So thanks again, as always, for your time, Brandon. I look forward to talking to you next week, and I imagine we'll chat in between with what happens tomorrow. So thanks, my friend. Look forward to talking again soon. Take care, everybody.